Hey y'all, welcome back to the Foxfire Dispatch. I'm your host, Liz Purvis, and with me today is a familiar voice to folks who tuned in earlier this month. We have Gaston County's own second vice chair of the Gaston Dems and 2024 and 26 candidate for NC House, Sydnie Hutchinson. Hey.
Thanks for having me back. It's like I never left.
So earlier this month, we dug into your race during the presidential cycle last year and what it means to build local power in Western North Carolina. And then today, we're going to be turning our attention a little to the south and east part of Gaston County in a small town called Stanley, where it seems like democracy has gone walkies, as it were.
Batshit crazy. Yeah. Batshit crazy. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about this story. We've got this mayor who resigned and then
Okay, so I'm gonna try to make this as short and sweet as possible, but it's really hard to make short and sweet. Basically, so Steven Denton is or was the mayor of Stanley. It's hard to determine because of the corruption. I think he just rules the town at this point. But so he was the mayor of Stanley. He was reelected in 2023, in November of 2023. Ran unopposed, shocker. He then basically in 2024, with help, basically made himself a salary position on the town management. So we have a town manager. His name was Heath is because he still is the town manager because a town of 4,000 people needs two town managers for a year, or 2 years basically. So he resigns in 2024, becomes the deputy town manager, with a salary of, I think it was like roughly maybe was it 100,000? I have to look at the data on that. But basically he becomes a deputy town manager. None of us knew this position was even being created, mind you, or that there was a need for said position. Heath Jenkins, who is the current town manager, he also, funny enough, he also was the police chief back in the day, retired, then became the town manager of Stanley. So not only is he getting his pension from being police chief, he's also getting a town manager salary. But this story is not about Heath Jenkins, but that's just to give you a level of what we're already dealing with here.
people are like, why can't millennials buy houses? It's like, oh, it's because boomers decided they needed a pension and one of our jobs.
Right. Like, I don't know. And you're not even doing a good job at it, mind you. Basically, so then they create the deputy town manager position. In my opinion, Steve Denton created this for himself. Shortly after he gets reelected to a 4-year term, mind you. He creates this position. He resigns as mayor. The mayor pro tem then takes over for mayor, her name's Kathy Kirkland. She's actually my neighbor. She lives like right behind me, like right through the woods. You can probably see her Christmas lights out there. So she becomes the mayor. Mind you, all the current town council members are, and yes, in Gaston County, your town council members these are nonpartisan races when they run for them. I'm using quotations, just in case we weren't aware. They're all Republicans, so there is no Democrat that sits on this town council. There hasn't been a Democrat elected to this town council, and even your town management, there's not a Democrat sitting there. So this is Republicans doing this. He resigns as mayor. We get a mayor pro tem. They then appoint themselves a council member to fill in basically the open position. There is no election. They got the state to change the charter, and I could back up a little bit because I feel like I got off a little bit here because it's a really confusing story to tell. But pretty much, here's what happens. Steve Denton appoints Drew Stewart, who was a town council member, to represent the ward that Kathy Kirkland, who's my neighbor, moved out of. Drew Stewart happens to not live in this ward that he is now representing. Well, sure as shit, you're supposed to live in the ward that you're representing, to hold that office. It's pretty typical in North Carolina. Like when you run for state house, you have to live in the district you're running for. Makes kind of Makes sense to me. So he's not living in this ward. So he can't technically run for election for this seat because he doesn't live in the ward. So what does the town do with the help of our state legislator, Mr. Overcash? They change the charter to basically where they can redraw the wards. So they gerrymander Stanley. So they take my ward, that was a ward that all touched each other all together, like you would imagine on a normal map. They divide this ward in half. So now my ward, so my neighbors that literally live directly across the street from me are in a different ward than I am in because they redrew the wards to put him like 5 miles down the road in the same ward. And literally, when you look at this map, his house, you can see the ward lines literally draw his house in. So his next door neighbor is in a different ward than he is. So they gerrymander the town of Stanley to keep power on the town council so that their guy, let's be clear, Mr. Stewart, he's a great guy. I have nothing against Drew Stewart. I other than his politics. He's a fantastic human being. I just don't agree with what happened because it's corruption. But they basically drew him in so he could run for this seat and split our ward into two and tried to say it was due to population. Bullshit. Bullshit. You drew him to keep him in that seat. So then the rabbit hole continues, Liz, of this shit. So last year, municipal elections. Again, nonpartisan elections. They should, you can run Republican, Democrat, whatever. So the two incumbents, so Drew Stewart and Chad Jones, Chad was elected to his seat on the ward. His ward was up for election. Cool, whatever. The two incumbents then approve Steve Denton's town manager contract because now our current town manager is actually going to retire at the beginning of the year. I don't know why it took him 2 years to train our deputy town manager, mind you, but whatever. He's going to retire, so that's another situation. They give him the most, I have, as a paralegal, and just as a general person when you're looking at a contract, I would never have agreed to the contract that they gave Steve Denton. Basically $170,000 a year. He gets a car. He doesn't have to live in the town. He actually moved out of the town and bought himself a nice couple $1 million property over in Belmont, which is not in the town limits or even in this district anymore. And moved out of the town, gave himself a sweetheart of a contract, and basically the town council cannot remove him for like 5 years unless they pay him out almost $370,000. So the council's basically, they're answerable to him, not the town.
It doesn't matter what kind of job he does, because if he does a bad job, then he's going to get multiple years worth of salary paid out. And if he does a good job, he gets to keep the job and keep working. Like, that's crazy.
And mind you, they approved this contract. So Steve Denton also, in March of 2025, became the chair of the Gaston County Republican Party. Yeah, so I don't know how that's not a conflict of interest anywhere. But apparently it's not, because we've dug deep into this, me and my friends in Stanley. And it's not a conflict. But basically he becomes the chair. He gets this contract, which it's public. More than happy to post that. And everybody can read through this contract and just see what a great deal this contract is. Unanimously approved by the council. GOP endorsements come out literally, I think, like a week later. The two incumbents that are on the Stanley Town Council happen to be on that GOP endorsement. Well, guess what? There was another Republican running against Drew Stewart. Was that other Republican even given a second consideration as far as an endorsement? Absolutely not. He wasn't even approached because he was not picked by Steve Denton to sit on the Stanley Town Council. Drew Stewart was. They redrew the whole fucking town for him. And guess what? He lost. He lost to the Republican that the GOP did not endorse.
That's wild. This is just like an aside, even from before we like dive into the details of this case. Like, there was much shit in Granville over a perception, an incorrect perception that when the Democrats did endorsements here, that we did not give all Democrats equal opportunity to earn those endorsements.
Mhm.
No, that is not what happened. We approached all of them, gave them all equal opportunity
Mhm.
to come and be considered, to give us a statement that made sure they knew that even if they couldn't physically come, that they were
Mhm.
still going to be considered, and we wouldn't hold it against them because it's, classist. We understand people have like
Right.
work obligations and yada yada yada. And so it's just like wild to me that like, oh, but the Republicans, they can just take their handpicked people and they can ignore the Republicans running against them and not bring them into the conversation at all. They can just,
Mhm.
yeah, it's you, like.
Yep. Yep, exactly. I mean, and even as like I'll speak on behalf of the Democratic Party, at least in our county, because these are technically nonpartisan elections. We know that they're not. Like that it's bullshit. But say if there were two Democrats potentially running for the same seat, more than likely both of those Democrats are going to get listed on our sample ballot or endorsement or whatever because it's a nonpartisan election. So if multiple Democrats are running, we're going to put them all on there. That's just kind of how we have done it in the county.
Mm-hmm,
But for me,
mm-hmm.
I'm just like, it's absolutely fucking insane that you get a contract, you're the chair, you endorse your two people, and then there's another Republican running, and you're just like, you're shit out of luck, man. You're not a part of, you're basically not who I want to be on that list.
That's against the Democratic Party policies. That
Right.
kind of behavior is
Mm-hmm.
against our policies because we
Right.
believe you got to give, if a bunch of Democrats are running, all those Democrats get the same equal opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
earn an endorsement if the county party opts to do endorsements, yada yada, knowing they're
Right.
all different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, that's wild. This whole story is wild. So just to
Mm-hmm.
like recap as we dive into it, we're talking about this Steve Denton, this mayor who resigned. He immediately basically got himself hired into a six-figure job and
Mm-hmm.
worked with his buddies on this town council to keep voters from having a say in the next possible election when they could have had a say.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
The,
And to the point of literally changing the town charter to redraw the maps and to not have to stand in a certain election because the charter was written differently where you would actually, if it was an unexpired term, you would have to rerun, like the next person would have to
mhm.
run. They changed that charter, so then basically the mayor pro tem who got moved into the mayor seat, she doesn't have to run until 2027, where before the charter would have had her actually having to run this year to
That she
run
would
keep
fill a
that
partial term and
right.
then run for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 So it's not just a level of like, it's literally the good old boy system. It's like, I scratch your back, you scratch my back, and I get whatever I want. And it's just from the bottom all the way up to your state legislators is how deep this goes. But Steve Denton is the heart of this, let's just be clear. Like he's the mastermind. Because he also got another town council member appointed that he wanted on that council, who doesn't have to sit for another election until
Yeah, so
2027.
half
Mm-hmm.
of your town council seats right now have been appointed by other members, not elected.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is so wild.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and again, so this former mayor Steve Denton, he created this position. 117, I know, or 100, not 70, 115. Sounds like
Mm-hmm.
170.
Mm-hmm.
$115,000 a year plus a leased
That's
$7,000
it.
a year
Yeah.
for a leased vehicle. So over 120K a year to be the deputy town manager.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy,
This is
crazy,
insane.
crazy.
It's insane.
Um,
And he's about to
I
become
feel
the town manager with his new
because
contract. Yeah.
because the town manager trained him for a long, long time and they both
Mm-hmm.
drew salaries.
Mm-hmm.
And then the town
Yes.
manager retired at a time where he decided it was good for him to retire.
Right.
And
Because all of this, the contract essentially, so the town manager, Heath Jenkins, is going to retire at the beginning of the year. So Steve Denton's contract becomes in basic, I mean, it's already in effect because they approved it unanimously.
mhm.
Um, which there's a multitude of other issues we have in this town. Finances is one of them. We have audit issues, budget issues. We don't have money to fix the roads in this town, but we sure as hell have money to pay 2 town managers. Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
The idea.
ding, 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 ding. Hello. Like, I don't have a sidewalk. I can't get to the elementary school because we don't have a completed sidewalk or the sidewalk's falling apart. But we can pay somebody that for a town of 4,000 people, mind you. It's not a big, I'm not talking like we're I'm not even talking like we're in Gastonia. Like, it's a small town. We're a small, small town. It just doesn't, the corruption and the amount, and by the way, he's a financial advisor, mind you, as well. So he is also able to keep his job working as a finance advisor as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, aside from
Hmm.
Denton's corruption, which I know we're gonna get into,
Hmm.
the another shady part of this I wanted to highlight was that like the town of Stanley's personnel policy says it requires open advertising for like public advertising for open
Hmm.
jobs to ensure that there is fair competition and diversity. And that they're like the exception is that if there's an emergency, like a critical safety or like a staffing issue, but even if there's an emergency, the town manager has to document why. But that's like clearly not what happened here.
No, absolutely not. There was no emergency. There wasn't, no, unless the emergency is our current town manager taking 2 years to retire. Like, I don't know if that's an emergency. In my book, it's not. And also, my whole thing is like, yeah, I get like we have to train people. I'm a pragmatist on that. Like, also, if you have a job, you have a job description. There was never a
Hmm.
job. It took, we did freedom of information request. It took, I think, several months, if not a year. I don't even, basically, they created a job description after we requested it. So it wasn't like it was advertised.
Like
Like,
there's
that's what I
some there
just,
it's wrong. It's just it's so
and
it's so
the
clearly
level
like
of,
open.
right. That's my thing. I'm like, if you're gonna be shady, at least do it well. Don't do it like to where it's so obvious. Like, because I mean, when I moved to this town, I'm a big advocate for always going to your town council meetings, but because nobody ever shows up to them. Ours are not recorded. There is no transparency. We do not have recorded meetings. You cannot watch them even live. You can't watch them online. You have to go to this tiny little, I think maybe fits maybe 50 people, maybe. And if you can't get in there, you're shit out of luck. And the town has forever refused to record the meetings to the point where the candidates that ended up basically defeating the two endorsed incumbents, we had an unaffiliated that won, and then the other Republican one, because the town was basically like, go fuck yourself. Because we're all pissed off. I mean,
Hmm.
it's insanity the level of corruption that's happening. And people either seem to be okay with it or they're just now figuring it out and they're like, holy shit, we've got a problem. And once I started going to the town council meetings, because I always feel like if you go to a meeting and you leave with more questions than you got answers to, or vice versa, we got a problem. And a lot of these town council meetings, the public comments portions are always at the start of the meeting. My questions are always after that. Like once we go through the agenda, and I'm like, and of course they never post our agendas
Hmm.
at a normal time, like maybe a day or two ahead of time. No, they're like the day of. And they're also, don't even get me started. That's a side tangent, no, but I'm like, can we please reform this to where like you actually like you can't just put a grant number on your agenda? Like, can you at least say what the grant is for? Like that shit pisses me off. Like I go to a
It
town
needs to be a
council
clear
meeting.
agenda that anybody can read and know
Right.
what topics are coming up. 100%.
Right, exactly. Because when I'm going to a town council meeting, you're like, grant number 5678 dash 20G. Do we want to approve that or no? And I'm like, what are we a grant for what? Like, what are we approving? Like, or a loan for something? What's the
Is
loan
this
for?
Narcan? Is this
Right.
artist
Like, are we
budgets?
buying a
Are
bunch of
we like
fentanyl? Like, I
pouring
don't
paint on the
know. Right. Like, what are we doing? So, I mean, a lot of the citizens in town, we just want transparency. It's like, again, we know you got to make tough decisions and you can't get everybody what they want, or you can't maybe fix the sidewalk right now because you got to fix the road, whatever. Just do it in front of all of us. Just make it transparent. So a lot of the council members elect that are going in, I helped them get elected. Because again, at the end of the day, it was about, it's not necessarily that I think Drew Stewart's a terrible individual, but he approved that contract. Pure and simple. He voted for that contract. I disagreed with that. He did not get my vote. I voted for the other Republican
Hmm.
because I'm like, at least that guy might listen to me. He reached out to me and was like, "Hey, everybody says I need to speak to Sydnie. So I'm gonna come." And we sat down and went and had coffee, had a great conversation, and I said, "Okay, what do I got to do to help you get elected, sir?" Because there wasn't anybody else. It was
Hmm.
one Republican versus
You didn't
another
have a
Republican.
Democrat who
Right,
was
unless
running
I'm
to
running, and
favor.
I was like, I'm not gonna throw myself into that, but right now. Um, but I think it goes to show that, like, kind of how we figured out about this corruption, or where it even began, was my race last year when I met with a bunch of Republicans, kind of forward our got our Stanley Forward group together. It was a bunch of
Hmm.
Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated. So we got together, started talking about the issues in our town and what we wanted to see fixed and what solutions can we come up with together to try to get this done, or at least drive community awareness to what's happening in our council and what decisions are
Hmm.
being made. Because again, there's not a local news aspect to come out here and be like, yo, I don't know if you knew this, but like Steve Denton like draw himself his own contract and now he's getting paid this and this and that. We don't have that attention to bring that to the forefront without literally local people, community activists doing that for us. So we all got together and we just started doing freedom of information requests. Then they started charging us for them, mind you, as well. That happened in the middle of all of this. We have so many outstanding requests. I can't even begin to tell you the number, Liz, that we continually are following up on, like as far as contracts for contractors that they've hired to take official pictures of people in the town. I'm like, why are we hiring somebody to take pictures? And show up to every random council meeting to take a picture. I can take
Hmm.
picture. Done. Guess what? You didn't have to hire me for that. Like, but we don't, there's no transparency to know where the money's going. So it's a multitude of things, but I mean, it's literally, it's a group of, we put this group together and it's grown to like 3,000 people. And again, this town only has like 4,000 in it, but 3,000 people on a Facebook group to basically, we post all the information me and you are sitting here talking about. It's called Stanley Forward NC on Facebook. We post all this information just so the public knows what the hell is happening and what Steve Denton's doing. Mm-hmm. It's
That's
crazy.
so I it took me like a while to process when you sent me this information first off. So just to recap, we had a sitting mayor wrote himself a new job. He got it without free and fair competition. He had his friends gerrymander the map to protect his friends and allies. He became the county GOP chair and then gave kickbacks in the form of endorsements to those same allies, who then also voted to give him a raise, a promotion, and control of the town, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And instead of because typically your town manager reports to your council, and then the council makes those decisions, and then the town manager works off of the council's decisions or directions. That's how it should, for the most part, go.
Hmm.
Here, that's not what's happening. It's the town manager is running the town council, and he's telling them what he wants to get done and what their decisions are going to be. So it's really an authoritarian leadership is what we're dealing with. It's one person running the town and the council.
And
It's not
so
the people.
making it harder for the people even to
Right.
attempt to make their voices heard through voting
Mm-hmm.
other people in.
Right.
Yeah, no, not not just a power grab, it literally like the political equivalent of like handing yourself the keys to city hall and just
It
like
is.
locking the door.
And here you go. Here's the money. Here's your check. And we can't like because the council approved this contract. There is literally nothing the citizens of Stanley, and honestly, if we're being the two new council members that are going to be sat at the beginning of next month, or not next, the following week, those two are literally going to have kind of their hands tied in a way, because this contract's already been approved. They've already signed off
Mhm.
on it. It's going into effect. And so to literally, we cannot
To
remove
kick
him.
him out, you'll pay
It's
him
going to
six
cost,
figures, which is
right.
a lot for a little town of
We don't
4,000
have that
people.
money. We don't
Yeah.
have, I mean, we're basically paying him a basketball player's salary at that point. I mean, I mean, it's going to be what, 300 and something thousand? Because he also
I
gets, there's
mean,
other things in that. I'm just telling everybody, go read this contract and you tell me if you would have, as a individual, would have said, "Hey, sign this contract. This seems like a great idea." Especially if your town's facing financial issues already and you know about that. That's my thing. That's just mismanagement.
he did this on top of knowing that the town was already in financial trouble, giving himself this
Mm-hmm.
sweetheart
Of a
deal
deal.
that is
Mm-hmm.
such a good salary, like such a over the top, like solidly
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
good. So yeah. No, I was thinking as you walked us through that, I was like, yeah, would be nice if I didn't see any ethical problems with like just get into power and make yourself a job and then you're
Right.
set. Cause you made yourself a
Mm-hmm.
good fucking job. But like that's
It,
not right. That's not
no, that's
right.
not right.
Like
And especially when he's in a position, and I'm not like dis I'm not discrediting his financial position by any means. Everybody has a right to make their own money, get ahead in life, whatever. But the fact that you're already like a wealth finance advisor and you're making enough money that where you can afford to move out of the town of Stanley, which apparently is not good enough for you anymore, move to Belmont, move to the lake, buy a multi-million-dollar property because lake houses in Belmont are not cheap. If you're going to be living on Lake Wiley, that's Charlotte basically.
mhm.
Um, you why do you need a three-figure contract for the town of Stanley as the town manager if you're committed to actually being part of community service and helping the town? Because you're also not having to quit your financial advisor job either. That's the
How does
thing.
he get to do both? I'm like, those are
It's not
two
a conflict.
40-hour a week
It's not
jobs. I don't
because
understand. I
the
don't
way that the
understand.
town wrote his contract is he gets to still do that and it's not a conflict. They literally wrote him. I think he wrote this contract. This is me speculating. This is not fact. I honestly think he wrote this contract himself, in my personal opinion, because this is, I mean, if I wanted to take advantage of a system, this is a contract I would have wrote. Like, you get your own, like, why do you need a quote unquote leased company vehicle for the town of Stanley? You do not need, like, where are you driving that vehicle from your house in Belmont to Stanley? Because you don't need, I'm sorry, you do not need a vehicle to get around this town.
No.
The only person that needs a vehicle would be our public works director. I'll give him a vehicle to get around this town, but your little ass, no, you don't get a car. You don't get dry cleaning expenses. Like, I mean, and he gets to work from wherever he wants. He does not even have to be in the town to work. So he can sit at his house in Belmont or go do whatever and still be our town manager and not even be in the town. Like, how the hell does that make sense? I'm not saying he's going to do all these things, but this is how this contract was written. And if I'm
Mhm.
just looking at it from making a pure financial good decision, just as a normal human being, I would have been like, "Nah, we're not signing this contract."
Also, like, we are living in a day and age where, like, fast food workers are being made to sign non-competes, where,
Mhm.
like, if you, like, not everywhere, but this is, like, a thing that is happening where, like, somebody from McDonald's might be forced to sign a non-compete that, like, they can't work at other fast food, a Burger King, a
Mhm.
Wendy's, a Chick-fil-A, and, like, that restricts their income stream at like the low wages of
Oh yeah.
restaurant service workers. And so the idea that like this guy can do like wealth finance management stuff and then
Mhm.
also like for people ostensibly probably like some townspeople in Stanley and then also do the town management stuff that includes finances like
Mhm.
does feel like that seems like you need a non-compete there way
Hmm.
more than you need it for like I'm serving burgers at McDonald's
Right.
sometimes and sometimes I'm doing it at Burger King. Like
Like, my bad. Like, I'm sorry, I'm flipping burgers in two plates. You know what I mean? But no, let me manage all millions of dollars. And my other thing is, the town's been, if we're facing some sort of financial difficulties, you were the mayor even before you were reelected in 2023. So you were mayor 4 years before that as well. So if the town's facing financial issues, that's just as much on you and the current town manager who you've been training under for 2 years now. Where's the money? That's what I want to know. And you're not giving us clear, transparent budgets. You were late on filing your state audits. There's shit going on that doesn't make sense. And
it's like
two
what was
plus
the
right.
financial situation in 2019? Like what were they left with and what has
Right.
been done since he became
Mm-hmm.
mayor, like since he came into power as a
Mm-hmm.
mayor? And
It,
also, if he was qualified as the mayor to become the deputy town manager or the town, why ever did he need 2 years of training? I'm so
right.
confused.
Liz, that is the $1 million question that I have literally been racking my brain about since 2024, the beginning of 2024, when a lot of this started happening. And really what he kind of, they ended up really he kind of put this to the forefront to people, at least in the town's knowledge, because of what he did. So they basically in 2023, they win re-election on the council. A lot of them ran uncontested, same old people. We had one Democrat running against one other lady. The lady won. So again, all Republican council. They fire a week after the election. They basically fire our fire chief and deputy fire chief because they're making they needed a full-time position. Bunch of shady shit. Basically, the fire chief had given it to Steve Denton and the town manager about funding lapses in the fire department and how they needed to do better and they needed different equipment. The usual,
Hmm.
I'm managing a
Hey,
department
we need to do our job, like
job.
saving lives,
Right.
etc.
And
Like,
exactly. But again, small town politics. Steve Denton happened to go to school with the fire chief back in the day. They happened to live in the same neighborhood and they happened to be friends and used to go on vacation together. They fire this guy. He then basically is like, whoa, what the hell is going on? Didn't even get a chance to apply for the full-time position. They hire the new fire chief, Hilton. He is a guy that wrecked an EMS unit with a passenger in it like 2 years ago. I don't even know if he was qualified technically to be the fire chief, but basically our whole volunteer fire department ends up quitting over this. This is all
oh my
happening a week
God.
after the election in 23, and this is kind of what spurned a lot of the focus on what was happening because we as citizens in the town are just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't have a fire department? Like, where's our mutual? So, our next mutual aid's in Alexis. That's 15 minutes down the road. So, I'm putting my own house out of fire at this point
Hmm.
because what we have three people on staff. So, you have this all happen, this consolidation. We get called a mob by Denton in a news article because we all show up to the next town council meeting and we're like, what the fuck is happening? Because we don't have a fire department. You fired them. You're giving us bullshit, weird answers on why you decided to fire them. And then now all the volunteers have quit. So that kind of spurned some of this. Funny enough, and this is again, this is speculation. This is not, it's all being going on currently. A week after this election, where his two people did not get elected, literally not even a week, it was 2 days, there was an indictment against the former fire chief who they fired, felony charges for, it was like failure to, like, basically he purchased $200 in like firefighting manuals that didn't get credited back on the company car, the standard kind of, oops, I forgot to turn in my receipt, my bad,
Hmm.
here's that kind of situation. So that's a felony for $200. And also breaking and entering, even though it was when they were told to return their equipment. All this stuff. So the DA files these charges literally 2 days after the election this past 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And now these poor men are facing charges. And to me, it's just really funny timing.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Mm-hmm.
really weird timing because you lose your 2 spots on the council. People are pissed about your contract. You happen to be the chair of the Gaston GOP. And the DA, who's a Republican, happens to be up for election next year. Hmm. You tell me. I don't know. To me, that just seems real funny because where's the money going? You're the chair's in charge of that money. Because to me, it seems very fishy that the DA is up for election. He's
Mm-hmm.
a Republican. And I'm not, again, this is all speculation, but these charges get filed. The chair is the one that the town is the one that's filing, you put pieces together. To me, I'm just like, and it's some of it, I'm like,
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
$200 in firefighting manuals. Come on. Come on. Like, so now these poor men
And
are
you want
having to
to put a
fight
felony on this man's record and take away his right to vote and make him lawyer up and spend thousands of
thousands of dollars.
dollars.
Right. And
Yeah, that's like
mind you,
that's.
these two men are still firefighters in Charlotte. They still have careers that you're putting in
Oh,
jeopardy.
I
So
mean,
it's fucked up. It's to me, it looks like political retribution, whether or not that may be the case. That's the appearance.
I was gonna say bullying, but like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like political retribution,
Mm-hmm.
like big, big scale bullying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what corruption looks like. On
Exactly.
in a small town, like in
Mm-hmm.
real time. This is not like this is not a couple of FBI agents giving somebody
Right.
in the federal government bags of money in some
Mm-hmm.
smoke-filled dark room, but this is like paperwork showing up after the fact to justify something that was never meant to be public,
Exactly.
or a case that is
Mm-hmm.
brought in what neither one of us could say is a timely manner,
Mm-hmm. Right.
over a piddly amount of
Mm-hmm.
expenses.
Especially when
Yeah.
what the incident that they're referring to happened at the end of 2023. Like, I'm not, like, I work in the legal system. I know it takes time to put an investigation together when you're investigating all this stuff. 2 years? 2 years for what you're charging them with? I don't know. I don't know. It just seems very suspicious timing to me. Very
Mhm.
suspicious. And I'll let the justice process play out for what it may be, but to me it just really feeds back on the level of corruption because he Steve knows, Denton knows that because of these firefighters and the ability that they spoke out, they're, you know, were out here telling the public what the fuck was going on. And this has
Mhm.
kind of led to the last 2 years of us putting pieces together and calling it out. So that
Mhm.
directly reflected in him not getting his two people on the council, and we got two new faces that are going to push back on him. They're not just going to fall in line. So I don't know,
Mhm.
suspicious timing, but it could just be small town, hearsay. But what didn't the corruption as far as the actual town goes and the town management and all of that, that's all in writing. Like, I mean, I can't make that shit up.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I can't with this story. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you or folks around you have tried to like get this story some traction,
Hmm.
and so far like have not, like, this is the biggest extent of like media picking up the story so far, right?
100%.
Like,
100%. Hmm. I mean, I've sent it out to people. I mean, they picked up on some of the firefighter stuff back in 23. They were running stories on that. But as far as like all the stuff that we have put together in the last 2 years, I mean, I laid it out to you in an email, and I mean, yeah, it took you some time to digest it, but I feel like there's a story here that needs to be told, and even if something can't be done, quote unquote, like legally can't be done because of how they've manipulated this situation. I want the public to fucking know about it because this just because it's happening in Stanley doesn't mean it's not happening in 5 other towns in this state.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's literally a prime example of good old boy system from the bottom to the top, helping each other out and scratching everybody's backs on the way and not benefiting anybody like us that would actually have an input or a say because we don't. We're just basically locked out. And that's
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah. Locked out, lines redrawn, voting delayed, justice denied. Like,
Denied, literally. Just, I mean, and the only way to change that is to get new council members, get new state house representatives, and put things back in order the way that they should be, and actually manage the town responsibly. I mean, you know,
mm-hmm.
and I hate to like it's just so basic. It's just that basic. Just management, responsible management of this town and not fucking blowing money away like we built a gazebo. This is my story. And everybody makes fun of me for this story. This gazebo in the town of Stanley. So we have train tracks that run through the center of our town. They build a gazebo right next to the train tracks. There's no sidewalk leading to it. There's not really even like a parking lot. I don't really know the purpose. Maybe there was a purpose. Really, it just sits there and nobody uses it. And it just stands out and it's just something the town has to maintain now. And I'm like, I'm all about, you know, beautification and everything. Can we have sidewalks first? Let's do sidewalks and then you can build a gazebo. So now basically I make every event about the gazebo. So like there's groups called Stanley Gazebo. You know, they wanted to put something on top of the gazebo and I'm like, well, we're spending money on putting something on top of the gazebo, but we still don't have a sidewalk. Okay, got it. So I mean, but it's things like that. It's just drawing attention to we invested God knows how much to fucking build a gazebo instead of giving the poor blind lady that can't get to Foon Lion a proper sidewalk or crosswalk to where she's not going to get hit by a car. That's the priorities. And that
It's
pisses
not
me off.
people first. It's
No.
not constituent first.
No.
It's
It's everything but that.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
here, let's make our town look pretty by putting this fucking gazebo nobody uses. So I use it for every Stanley Democratic precinct meeting. Basically anytime I can, I use the gazebo to put it to good use. You know.
But I'm sure that that's like again, like you said, not the easiest place for people to because you said there's no
No.
parking over there. There's not a safe walking path. Like
you're right next to the train
that's
tracks. You can't even hear each other if a train goes by. Which we
mhm.
have trains coming through. We're pretty frequent. Like our
Okay.
train tracks are not just like it just sits there and they're there. We
Uh-huh.
actually have a good amount of traffic that goes through. So I can't tell you how many times we've stopped meetings on Main Street because
Just to
the
let it
trains are coming down. So I mean, but no, it's just it pisses me off that nobody is paying attention to the story, and it seems like the news doesn't. And I don't know if it's just because they can't get somebody legally in trouble or what there is, but I'm just like there's a story here and God knows, I mean, if you were to
mhm.
even deep dive even further into this what you would find. Or if you're able to actually have that time and that investment to get these freedom of information requests freaking filled, you know, or to like being
Mhm.
able to consistently stay on top of following up on them. Because one of the people that I have been doing this with, I mean, I know he has some that are 2 years outstanding. Two
Mhm.
years. And then they started charging us for these requests in the middle once because of lack of transparency, they started getting a multitude of public information requests. And
Because
so then
they
they were
tried
like,
to
"Oh, we're
stop
gonna
it
start." Yep,
essentially with these fees
right.
and
And that didn't stop it. So, but yeah, that's good old Stanley for you. But that's what's happening here, and it's a developing, ongoing situation of all sorts of things. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the new two council members on there. There was also somebody started a petition to get signatures to remove the town to remove Steve Denton. Obviously that doesn't hold any water or weight, but it's got a couple hundred signatures on it. So For a town of 4,000 people, that's saying something. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the voter turnout just to get the two new people on the council, that definitely says something because it wasn't like they lost by little margins, they lost by decent amounts. So people are
Nice.
definitely people, like I said, the town
People
literally
made their
showed
voices
up
heard.
and said fuck you. So
Yeah.
so I mean, which is great. That's what I want to see happen is people investing in their communities and taking ownership and calling these fools out on their bullshit.
Mm-hmm. No, a
Because
hundred, a hundred
that's
percent.
what matters. So,
Yeah. Well, please keep us posted on
oh, I
this.
will.
Love to I would love for there to be a positive shift in this story that we could come back to at a later
Me too.
date. And um those poor
Mhm.
shame for those firefighters that whose lives are
Yeah.
still going to be mucked up by felony charges that seem
Hmm.
just like not
Yeah.
the best use of anybody's time.
No, and I mean the fact of the legal fees that go behind fighting that. That's really what ticks me off is it's like,
That's
okay, if
what's
you want
political retribution about it is
to,
like we could wreck your life. You need to second mortgage your house to pay your lawyer. Guess you're gonna
yep,
have to do that. Like
right.
like
Or you're gonna get, temporarily you're placed on leave until this figures itself out, so you're not even really working or whatnot, or you're ruining somebody's career. These men have, I mean, one of them was the North Carolina Firefighter of the Year in 2023. So it's not like these are not terrible men. Like, and I'm again, I'm a paralegal. I work in the legal system. I'm very much you're innocent until you're proven guilty. It doesn't matter what you did. And I don't tend to take sides in this, but right now, because I know these men and these men have stood up for me, I know them personally. I just do not I see this as pure retribution, in my opinion. But again, the court system will have its say in that. So
well, I hope that they get good judges and
I, and if
fair
I were them,
juries
I'd
if it
sue
comes
the
to that.
shit out of the town. If you get found not guilty, I'd be, I'd be,
Yeah, maybe sue him for Steve Denton's leased vehicle in house.
hey, that's fine. Why not?
Town manager income. We seem
I
to
mean,
have that.
apparently, I am apparently living my life wrong if that's a town manager income because I did comparisons from around the state and other comparables, and I mean, it's semi roughly there. It's still way more than what a normal
It's a
town of
lot
this
for a small
size.
town. It's a
Yeah.
lot for us. I bet
Hillsboro
that
doesn't
was
pay theirs as much as ours is getting paid, so I'll just say that much. When I
yeah.
did comparisons. But yeah, apparently I'm just living my life wrong and I need to go be the town manager somewhere. I might do a half decent job of that. Six
Fair.
figures and you apparently don't even you can just get the job. You don't even have to really apply.
No, apparently you gotta be mayor first, Sydney.
Oh,
You gotta be mayor
damn
first, and
it.
then
Okay.
you get the job. Is
2027 Mayor Sid. Mayor Sid for Stanley. You heard it here
oh
first.
my, running a kick-ass race, that's for sure. Okay, so we're back with a fun little astrology sprinkling that we have decided to tack on to this episode. Because we have found out that both Sydney and I are Leo suns, but Sydney is also a Leo rising. Um, which for those who don't know, is like your inner self or your like higher self or like the person that is like the most you, like your rising sign is kind of emblematic of that. And she's got a ton of Leo in her chart too. So we're just like we are all like fire sign. We are all great hair days. And so I thought it would be cool to like look at some of the key takeaways for like the Leo placements of Sydney's chart for 2025 as we go into 2026 and see like what we might read as we go into, next phase of candidate life, you know. Um, so we're looking at Danny Nicholas's 2025 yearbook. She runs an awesome astrology podcast, does very cool stuff. Yay, Shani. And she says that the ascendant in Leo, so you got your rising in Leo, 2025 begins a decades long journey of taking your bucket list items seriously. If you can dream it, you can do it. But the work won't always be glamorous. Over the coming year, match your idealism with your elbow grease. And with your sun in Leo, we feel like in 2025, um, the muses have been maybe sweet talking you, or maybe you've been sweet talking them. Either way, inspiration is on tap, but it's up to you to channel it into the projects you want to bring into this world. And then so you also have your Mercury in Leo, which indicates that like this past year has been a little bit of a magical mystery tour, but also kind of the idea that it's kind of the beginning of a story that could take a longer period of time. Um, this has a fun little recommendation for a consistent practice of mapping your ideas to ensure that they don't get lost in the ether, and so it encourages you to like start scribbling. But if you look at your notebook from November 30th, oh, and then the final Leo placement that we had in Sydney's chart is a Venus in Leo. And so this says that dreamy new friendships are entering your life covered in fairy dust. Just don't get carried away by passion, so that you forget your boundaries. Depending on the location of your Venus, it may take a beat to notice these changes, but you will ultimately be under the influence of Leo in Venus for the next 14 years. So you have like an idea that you have time to adjust to those new friendships, new relationships in your life. Yeah. Oh, just before we press record, I was trying to look through the different like transits of what some of the bigger planets have been doing, because obviously like our inner planets, they like rotate the sun a lot more frequently, right? But these like the bigger planets that take a long time, they kind of can signify some bigger life stuff. And so Saturn has been in Aries in your chart during 2025 from like May 24th until September 1st. It was in Aries, and this is your ninth house of learning and self expansion. And so this is a lot about boundaries. Um, it says when it comes to advanced planning, you're typically one who prefers to fly by the seat of your pants. Well, that doesn't exactly change this year. It might be a time when you notice the limits of making long term decisions based on how you feel in a given moment. You're naturally blessed with good instincts when it comes to forecasting into the future. But this year, those instincts can be fortified by research and good old fashioned patience. Okay, so that doesn't resonate. Ah, okay. Well, yeah, and maybe it's more like maybe in some way it's more indicating like that this is a like has that there has been a period of that's like in some ways a prequel to 2026 and 2028. So like 2025 had we've got some intense fly by the seat of your pants time, some intense expansion, thing, lots of going on, but like it's a taste, it's a prep for, it's a like leading into what we know 2026 is likely going to have for you, and then maybe 2028 again, right? Because like that would be the the, the, that'd be the dream. I, I, oh God. Well, anyway, that is what I have for that. That has been really fun. I should have brought cards so that we could like pull a card, but alas, I did not. Um, but next time. What, dude? I I got myself this beautiful Salvador Dali deck while I was laid up with my foot this fall. It was like my present to myself for being stuck in a boot. Um, oh, well, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm so happy about my mayor who's changing his party affiliation. Like that says so much to me about like how effective we've been. So that's been cool. Yeah. You know I've been checking Mayor Nurse's affiliation. Like it's not updated on the Board of Elections yet, and I he's got about till the new year till I call him and be like, I would like you. You did give me a promise, and I did. Oh God. It's it's a labor of a volunteer labor of love, that's for damn sure. Um, dude, this has been so fucking fun. Thank you for doing this with me. Exactly. Exactly. So if you are listening from Gaston County or anywhere in North Carolina, we are recommending that you show up at your town council meetings or your city commission or your town commission or your county commission meetings. There are meetings, there are usually, like Sydney said, about five other people there. Like Dalton George mentioned on a previous interview episode of this podcast, like the electeds do better work when there are people there. So like be there to make sure that they're doing the best job they can for your community. You can demand transparency on hiring and map changes. You can support candidates who are committed to ethical local government, and if you have receipts like public documents or council minutes or contracts about this particular sticky wicket in Stanley, North Carolina, with former Mayor Denton, please share them with journalists and watchdog groups like Carolina Forward and Common Cause North Carolina, or new media entities like us at the Foxfire Dispatch. Sunlight is still the best disinfectant, even when people in charge would rather keep it dark. Um, all right. So I did put in here a like bless their heart segment where we roast bad behavior in North Carolina politics about mayor turned manager Steven Denton, but I feel like we may already have like hoed that row as far as it'll go. Yeah, but get the fuck out without taking a couple years salary with you, because that's just it's like there are many iterations of this that are acceptable. They're just not the current iteration. uh So pay attention to things like this, what's happening in Stanley, your local charter, your town council minutes, your town budgets. These are public documents. Your right to access them is part of this democracy. If something feels off, you can say something. You can say something in public comment. You can FOIA things. We do have options as long as we use them. Uh, and if those things don't work, then we gotta oust people through the voting booth. Which a little bit longer in this case, but uh I believe March 3rd is the Tuesday in March where we are next all voting. So if we could all, yeah, put that on our calendars, make sure to early vote beforehand, yada yada yada. Would be real good for democracy as we know it, as we fight back against fascism or Americanism, as the Department of Homeland Security would like to refer to it. Um, yeah, I don't know if you saw that they literally like posted some. Okay, Sid. No, okay. So this is okay. I'm gonna do my outro in a minute, but I'm on fucking Twitter this morning, like drinking my coffee and looking at Twitter, and like Department of Homeland Security, I believe, one of the racist departments, has some uh, image that they posted on Twitter of like the Abe Lincoln Memorial with like 11 stars around its head, and Americanism is like winning or some shit in Nazi font. Um like in like the font the Nazis used. Um yeah, and like it's 11 stars symbolizing the Confederacy. It was like a whole thing. It was like a whole thing. Um But like the Americanism thing is like referencing a philosopher who was like, if fascism comes to America, it'll be called, it's like wrapped in a flag, wearing a cross, Americanism, yada yada. Um, yeah, on we yeah, that's so thank you for listening to this chaotic episode of the Foxfire Dispatch. If today's discussion lit a spark, please help us fan the flame by sharing an episode, sending stories, or subscribing wherever you listen. We would be especially thrilled if you would subscribe on YouTube. We put out episodes on Fridays, and you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky at the Foxfire Dispatch, and on TikTok and Twitter at Foxfire Dispatch. Our music is produced by John Phipps, and the show is written and executive produced by me, Liz Purvis. We are who we're waiting for. Don't forget that. And until next time, Happy New Year. Now go get in some good trouble.
And start a new day.